My first job was really a cushy, fun job in a high school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But Lancaster wasn't a place that I wanted to be, so I applied for jobs back in Philadelphia, got a job at an inner city elementary school, and that was just sheer hell. teaching 2,000 kids a week with no art room and a shopping cart that I would wheel around with art supplies. And basically I was, a glorified cop and a relief pitcher for the classroom teacher. And it was just 2 years of just, a pandemonium. So I started applying to graduate schools and then started visiting New York a lot. I had a friend who moved here, came to New York, and really the bug really hit after spending some time here and then taking the whole idea of pursuing a career as an artist more seriously. I work abstractly at the moment, but if you look closely at my work, you'll see all kinds of things in the real world that exist. I always tell the viewer, if you see something, it's probably there. My work is very often about excavation, layers and layers and layers, and then I dig through the layers and find out what's underneath. I'll even forget having made that mark or that layer that's underneath the surface. An idea will germinate in my head, usually just walking around, maybe even looking at a shop window or down on the sidewalk at a pattern that exists with spots on the concrete, a dress pattern, my dog's paw. Anything and everything enters into the mix, and then it sort of gels when I get into the studio and I start making marks on the canvas. I often construct the canvas and then prime the surface. The drawing begins, the first layers of the painting begin in the actual gessoing layer, the priming of the surface. I start beginning to work. I start making marks. And one thing leads to another, then leads to another. And as I continue working and making marks and applying paint, a focus comes into play. I call it controlled emotional responses. I'll start in a very abstract expressionist manner, just throwing paint around and making marks and scraping paint off and sanding the surface, and then the painting starts taking on a life of its own, and very often it tells me which direction I should go in. I often like to turn the painting a quarter turn each time I work, or throughout the day. By turning the painting, on its side or upside down, and then I turn it clockwise usually, I'll begin to see the painting in a different light. Eventually the painting will sort of speak to me and say, well, this is the way I really want to hang now, and this is the way I think you should finish this piece. And so I'll usually go with that intuition. Intuition is a very important part of my process of working. And sometimes if I follow my own best intuition and don't second guess it, I'll get the best results. Very often I'll work all day on something, and it's that last 15 minutes in the studio before I leave that the magic will happen, and that's when I'll pack up my toys and go home.